Krupa and Bhargav of Oddz protocol. Oddz is a DeFi options protocol. It's one of the original DeFi options protocols, started alongside Hedgic and Open way back in the day of 2020. So, hey guys, how are you? How you doing?
Brilliant. Thanks for having us here. And it's been a pleasure. We've been working with Genesis Volatility for a long time. And it's great to catch up with Greg face to face.
Absolutely. Super excited to have you guys on. I was thinking maybe we could start with just a quick background. I know both you guys have extensive developer experience as back-end engineers. Maybe we could just talk about how you found your way into the crypto space from your original sort of background.
Absolutely. So been building software from probably like last 12 years. So a few years back, that is when essentially boom of crypto, 2017. That's when I started to understand what crypto is rather than just investing. As I said, I was a risk-averse investor. Right. So that helped us a lot in understanding crypto rather than just investing. And it helped me personally because 2018 was a bear market. So I did not put a lot of money in there and did not lose it. So yeah, that's when the crypto journey started for us. Just understanding what crypto is and how it can essentially change the world for better. And the main effect of it is essentially making sure that your money is not just handled by the bad government. So you started understanding a lot about money then. And in 2020, essentially when we saw that crypto is getting to a good state, we wanted to build something which essentially user can use as a hedge tool so that they will be safe. That's when I think Sridhar is our co-founder, who essentially envisioned this, and we started building in 2020 December. So that's about me.
Cool. And what about you, Bhargav?
So I've been into Web2 space since 7 years. 7 years of experience building the software applications in the backend side of the Web2. So my journey in crypto started in 2019 when there was a huge crisis in the cryptocurrency space. So I started my journey with investing. Then I started exploring this technology. It took almost 3 to 4 months exploring the technology with reading the Bitcoin paper and how the Ethereum works compared to Bitcoin. So then I started building DApp, my personal projects, and helping the freelancers and meeting the co-founders in the Indian startup space. So that's where my journey in the crypto started. 2019 is still the nascent stage for the DeFi. Not many dApps are still they are not having huge volume. So that's when I was working in the MNC, so Sridhar reached out to me. They are building a DeFi options trading protocol, and I see a huge opportunity in options trading compared to Web2 and Web3. The volume of Web2 is more than Web3, so I see a good opportunity, and that's where I got introduced to Oddz, and journey has been good so far.
That's great. So one of the interesting things about DeFi options is that there's kind of a lot of different approaches. So we could go sort of the limit order book style, which is kind of like the Deribit version that we see in CeFi. And then in DeFi, there's kind of a different style, which is like the AMM or liquidity pool style. And so maybe we could touch on that. What kind of style are you? And then also, do you guys offer options on just Ethereum, or do you offer crypto options on different sort of cryptos like ERC20s and stuff like that? What's the approach that you guys have taken?
Yeah, let me answer the first question. Essentially, we are AMM based. So when we started in 2020, we wanted to make sure that we do provide immediate option purchases for users, because having an order book with a new essentially protocol is a difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
You need to essentially get good amount of liquidity and market makers at that point in time. So we took a decision that we'll start with V1 should be our AMM based model, right? But we wanted to make sure that it is just not buying option, for the users, and whoever is providing the liquidity has to be secured by their positions. Like we had a lot of impermanent loss at that point in time. People were talking about impermanent loss, and most of the derivative platforms are built based on stable coins, right? So you deal with USDC, you don't want to essentially have an underlying asset, and we just want to essentially buy some product out of it. So that is when our idea was to make sure we eliminate that impermanent loss. So we went with USDC as a stable coin, so we can provide USDC as a liquidity provider, and users can purchase options with USDC itself. And to come to the second question, we do provide options for multiple tokens at this point in time, thanks to GWAL. Essentially, we started with Ethereum and Bitcoin, and now we provide for Avalanche and Aave as well. So everything is based on a liquidity pool design, but it has its own unique benefits, which is essentially different from what rest of the people do. So we do have something called deviation-based pools, right? So essentially, what you do in there is you provide a liquidity to a pool. Say you want to write options for price range 20% above from the current range, right? So you can just put the liquidity in that particular pool. So whenever some user want to purchase essentially out of money options, we will use that particular liquidity. So that is our design. So that is a simplistic way of saying it, but we do have multiple layer of design in there, where essentially we make sure the option pricing is right with the implied volatility we get from Genesis volatility. We make sure that so that liquidity providers are not at harm, and essentially also we want to give them flexibility that which options they want to write, right? So that range, essentially we have defined our range based on a lot of backtesting. So we have defined the range where users are comfortable providing the liquidity, and that's how we have built our V1 version of options.
That's super interesting. So I know DOVs or DeFi option vaults, that's kind of like a big thing as well in DeFi option space. So they only sell, call it 10 delta out of the money options. Now with Oddz, there's a bunch of different pools, if I'm understanding right, and I can go ahead and say I want to provide liquidity into the 10 delta option selling pool, or I could do like the 25 delta option selling pool, and therefore I'll only be selling, or my liquidity will only be used for those delta. Is that right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So we started building the protocol where we do use Black-Scholes model under the hood. So it has been performing good so far. Like we have been tested from probably last 2 years now. So it is working good, and it is essentially most of the you can say DEX derivative exchanges with respect to options are using that protocol. But other than that, the way we have built is we can deploy any like underlying pricing model, just not dependent on Black-Scholes. So that was the protocol design. That's how we designed from the beginning. But as of now, we are supporting that, and in the future we can integrate with any third party. So we have started integrating with essentially third party wallets now. So you can find our Oddz options on Frontier Wallet, where you can directly buy from the wallet, right? So that was the initial aim of the product as well. So we want to help hedge user assets, right? It directly to the user rather than like big options third party player. So we are trying to reach the masses via that integration.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. So like your pools are pretty much standing there ready to sell option premium to buyers, and your sort of target audience are natural hedgers. So if I'm like a coin holder and like I'm integrated with that wallet, I can go ahead and just hedge through your protocol all in sort of one click. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yes. That's awesome. And then something you alluded to earlier is that you used a Black-Scholes model we Oddz and Gvol have a relationship where we provide some data feeds to you guys that help price your AMMs. How does that component work? Does it price only when, let's say, someone is ready to do a trade, or does it constantly update? How does that component?
So we do update every few minutes. We update to on-chain. Essentially, everything is on-chain. There is no off-chain component except for the data feed because we trust GWAL. That is the only off-chain component. Everything else, essentially, even with the automation task is done by keepers, defender, everything that is decentralized. So we do get the Genesis volatility feed and we update it on chain. And whenever user purchase an option, they'll get our latest feed, latest volatility. And it is beneficial for both the liquidity provider as well as the liquidity buyer because it's very important to keep it real time. Otherwise, we are at risk in both the sides.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So both parties essentially get a fair price.
Yes.
So
yes.
One of the things that I think is great is that you guys sort of offer more coins that we do not find in the CeFi space. So like you said, AVAX, what was another one that you offered?
Aave.
Aave, perfect. And so do you guys plan to sort of expand beyond into more sort of ERC20 tokens or more coins to offer optionality?
Yes. As of now, most of the buyers are for Bitcoin and Ethereum because of the market condition we are in. And we had a good response for Aave and AVAX. That's when we launched it. But we are open to whenever the community. We do community events and we get the responses if they want to see any new tokens. We are happy to launch it. But again, it is dependent on whether we can get proper IV feeds and essentially from you guys. And again, we do have proper feeds from the chain link. So all those considered, we have to make sure that whatever the liquidity provisioning we are doing, so whoever coming and investing are secure rather than going for hundreds of tokens. Let's make it secure for few tokens where we can provide actual value. As of now, that is our motto. Once we perfect that, then probably we can go to the masses.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you guys are built on EVM, Ethereum based. Are you on a layer 2 or a side chain? And also, do you plan to ever expand to say Solana or some of the other potential blockchains?
So we started with building on top of EVM because that was our go-to model at that point in time because there was no other sustainable chains. And we are, as of now, on EVM compatible chains. So that is our primary focus as of now. And so when we build options, we do with a secondary market. So essentially, like you have purchased an option and you are seeing there is a good probability that when you purchase, when you exercise this option at this point in time, it probably is not that worthy, but you can sell it on secondary market and you can get more out of it, right? Because the option pricing, because of the delta is increased or essentially the price of the option itself is increased. So we built that as a like one more hedge for whoever is trying to buy the option because we only encourage exercise of the in-the-money options. So that is one tool which we built. And so we have built a great amount of ecosystem on essentially just with options, and it is on EVM chain. So whichever EVM we tested out on Polygon as well and Avalanche. We got a good response from both. As of now, that's why we are in Avalanche, and we started getting because of the market condition, we started getting less and less users in all possible chains. That's where we want to make sure the next we build or essentially build on any EVM chain or on Solana, we want to make sure the liquidity is essentially unified. So you have one unified liquidity and you can execute options from everywhere. So we are working towards that. That is a sneak peek of what we are working in options V3. It will be an order book model with unified liquidity across chains. So you can essentially provide liquidity from Ethereum, and you can buy options from Avalanche or even on Matic. So
Oh,
that is being worked on as of now.
yeah, that's super interesting. Because if you're so just to make sure I understand correctly, so one of the problems with having multiple sort of layer twos or side chains is basically you don't want the liquidity to be fragmented between each sort of solution. And so
Yes.
now you guys also provide a secondary market. So if I buy an option from the AMM and I want to get out, I can go ahead and trade that on the secondary market that you guys provide. And right now you're working on sort of a central limit order book across layer twos that someone could basically not be siloed into their specific chain and basically get out of the position however they want or buy position on the central limit order book. That's
Uh, yes, I wouldn't say that exactly central limit order book, but something of that sort.
cool. That's fascinating. And now have you noticed some the trading on secondary market versus trading directly against the AMM? Has there been like a an increase on the secondary market, or is it still mostly trading against the AMM?
As of now, it is trading against the AMM, and most of the issue we have encountered at this point in time is educating the users on
Hmm.
essentially utilizing the options. So the problem is we do have option buyers who understand this, but when we build a new functionality like a secondary market, that is itself is new for them. So we are working towards helping them understand what is a secondary market when they onboard in the onboarding process itself, so that they can get a best essentially output from using odds options. So as of now, 95% of our trades are from AMM
Oh,
against AMM. Yeah.
yeah, that's super interesting. And then something you touched on real quick was sort of the user education. I think that's a big thing for DeFi in general. Like learning how to DeFi is one thing, and then learning DeFi options is like compounds the problem. So here in Chicago, the options market has sort of like a history, since 1973 and all that stuff. How has sort of the option market in India been? I know Delta Exchange has a good amount of volume out there in India, and I know that there's a big volatility trading space in the traditional markets. Do you see sort of adoption in like the retail space or appetite for trading options versus sort of Delta One products?
At this point in time, we do have in the traditional market, the options is the king in
Mm.
India at this point in time. But the most of the users who enter crypto market are probably in less than 30s, and mostly they wouldn't have trade options. It's directly to the stocks or any underlying asset. So that's where the education part comes into the picture, and that's why we keep on trying to create Twitter threads so that like users understand what is options and how they can purchase, how they can hedge themselves against the risky volatility assets. So we are working on that part, and as in India recently there is a rule that it is the crypto trading is almost taxed as gambling. So it
Mm.
is around 30% tax. So that even if you want to trade your one crypto to another, it is essentially 30% tax. So we and derivatives is the one space which is it is outside that. So
Mm.
that you can do good derivatives in India now. So most of the centralized exchanges as well as decentralized exchanges are working towards this building more useful, user-friendly the protocols for derivatives. So that is in the works from last, I would say, 4 to 5 months.
That's super interesting. So there's actually a preferential tax treatment for derivatives that creates sort of an incentive to have a pretty robust derivatives market. That's pretty cool. I didn't
Yes.
know that. And then just kind of moving on to the next question. Have you guys thought about doing something in the DOV space as well, or is that something kind of outside of the scope? I mean, the way you're structured right now has a DOV sort of component to it if I can pick out my liquidity. But have you guys thought about doing just a competing DOV product as well?
Absolutely. We are in the works as well, but it will be coming after the options V3. So essentially, as we have seen in the crypto space, most of the crypto users, uh, at least with respect to derivatives, don't want to trade them. Like very often, it is essentially you buy, you hold it for some time, and you either sell, execute, and get out of it. So when we see the DOVs, essentially most of them are interested because they are providing a decent amount of returns with a medium risk appetite. So that's where we are also targeting, and most of the users see the APY rather than what essentially it is.
Right.
I mean, what that particular protocol is actually doing with that money. So we are essentially impressed by how Ribbon has revolutionized the market there. So we have plans with respect to the way we build DOVs. So the buyers in case of most of the vaults is essentially via auction deals or essentially outside of you settle it outside of on chain, and I mean probably the transaction will be on chain, but rest of the things happens off chain. So in our case, since we are trying to get more users to our platform, we are integrating with the wallets directly. So the buyers we already have. So we want to make sure that whenever we do build good DOVs, we can get good returns by having more users utilizing the options market. So we are in the process. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. And then kind of just jumping to something else here, you guys have a token in market. Maybe we could just touch on the tokenomics. What are the tokenomics behind the Oddz token and holding an Oddz token?
So essentially, tokenomics, we had a 3-year locking time. So it's been 2 years now, and team has not taken even a single money out of the market. So that is a commitment from Oddz team to the users, and most of the investment which was done is as a staking program. So whatever you see in the market is either to initial investors or via staking. So that has been our approach. And if you hold Oddz token, there are essentially, at this point in time, we provide transaction fee discount, as well as you can come and stake with us and essentially earn staking rewards. And whatever the transaction fee we gather, we do transfer 20% of it to the staking program directly. So you are not just the available staking program. On top of it, we provide transaction fee as well to those stakers. And essentially, that is going to improve what we are doing next. Essentially, we'll be coming up with I'm not sure we have said it anywhere. We are coming up with layer 2 chain of our own, and Oddz will be the currency there. It will be the native currency for that particular chain.
That is awesome. A little alpha leak here in the podcast. Very cool. That's great. And then, so if someone wants to learn about Oddz, where do they find you guys? Do they go to your Twitter? What's your website? Like, how do they get in touch with you guys and maybe trade on the app?
So it's pretty easy to remember. Oddz, oddz.fi. So you go to our website, and we do have all the content regarding options, and we want you to learn first and then invest. That has always been our advice, and all the best.
I love it. Awesome. And then kind of last question here, just a little bit more on a fun note. So, obviously you guys are running a protocol, ton of work, super busy. What do you do outside of work? What do you do for fun?
It's in last 2 years, it's hardly been any time we got out of building protocol. But otherwise, in India, we enjoy cricket as a sport, which is a sport, and essentially we do watch and play with essentially our college friends.
That is awesome.
So that has been our leisure time, and effectively It's been last 1.5 years has been COVID, so it has been only at the home. So it's more towards spending time in understanding more of decentralized world and what we can contribute.
Yeah, totally. And Bhargav, is the same for you, Cricket?
Yeah, obviously cricket, and we do have some. We do have got some time building participating in hackathons as part of Oddz. So whenever we get time, Sridhar insists us to participate in hackathons and build some products over there powered by Oddz. So we do such things whenever we get time.
That is awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Everyone who tuned in, thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. It is a pleasure.